One more. I think we can do one more. The claim theory here is that there are more variants in the New Testament manuscript than there are words in the entire New Testament.
Wow.
So think about this. There's probably something like 24,000 words, give or take. And so there are 300 to 400,000, maybe more, maybe less, variations within the text.
Right. Wow.
So
that's a lot.
What is that? 10 changes for every one word?
Yeah, right. So this has become one of Erdman's standard one-liners used in various media appearances and debates, right? He often also adds that there are somewhere between 200,000 to 400,000 variances in our manuscripts. Mm-hmm. Wow, right? These numbers can overwhelm someone unacquainted with the field of textual criticism because, quite frankly, they mean little. Right. They don't mean it. They sound big, but they mean little. Right.
If you're a pitcher and you throw 3 balls in your entire career, and you've struck out one batter, well, that's really good. You have a 100% strikeout. Oh man, that person! I'm signing that person to the Yankees.
Yeah. Now, big number, but it doesn't mean very much. Right.
Now throw out 1 million, and that number goes down. And so, when statisticians do that for baseball, they understand. Oh wow, a .233 average. Wow, that's really impressive. Well, that's 20%. You get failing marks on a test for that, but in baseball, that's really good. So
why are these numbers? Why do they mean little?
Right. Well, first of all, as a response to the claim 1 has made clear, we have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to the New Testament manuscripts. No other piece of literature in antiquity even comes close.
Right. Again, we have thousands and thousands and thousands. So
where we have 5,200, I think for the Odyssey, it's like 300, or it's something. I don't think it cracks 1,000.
Yeah.
It's far and away. I guess no one wants to read about a guy on a boat for 7 years getting back to his wife.
Actually, probably a lot of people did, and that's why we have as many as we do. Right?
Or maybe it stayed on the shelf longer for most people. Right. And there weren't so many people thumbing through it and
messing it up.
Right. So mostly this overwhelming amount of evidence for the New Testament manuscripts is positive. The more manuscripts we have, the more comparison can be made by scholars to determine with higher probability the original words of the earliest manuscripts.
Right. So we can compare one with the other and trying to get an idea of what exactly was the original.
Right. Yeah. Again, the scholars, they group these types of manuscripts in location or by textual variants or by what book of the Bible it's talking about. So there are many different classifications that you can make, just like you do with anything in the science world, animals and plants and everything like that. So naturally, the more manuscripts we have, the more variants we have, right?
Right.
Because copyists made errors in copying.
No, that's really? You mean people made copy mistakes? Wow.
Right. Again, how is this copying being made? And we think, it's this guy. He's in this tome of scrolls. He's sitting down. He's got his little quill, and he's doing it carefully, and he's counting the numbers. Okay. Well, some scribes did that, absolutely. But others are riding on horseback or donkey, and they're being chased by Roman soldiers, and they're I have a 3-month journey to get to this next church. I better start my copying, and so the fact that people are writing in different forms in different ways, it costs money to produce these. So exactly under what conditions there. If you had somebody in the family who was a learned person, maybe you take it to them. I mean, there are all these different ways that we can attribute to the number of copies that we have.
Right, and what we'll see here later on in the chapter is actually the folks that did the copies were pretty well organized.
Right. Yeah, that's the crazy thing about it is just how well it has been preserved.
Yeah.
So the large number of variants is actually a testimony to how much evidence we have.
Right.
And honestly, if you were to be skeptical about the rise and fall of Julius Caesar, literally the fall of Julius Caesar, and you had 5,300 manuscripts all testing this, you say, beware the eyes of March. I don't think he was assassinated. You're like, well, I have 5,300 documented things, and if you had it in the same way that the New Testament does, scholarship would laugh in your face about you being that skeptical.
Claims.
They would love to have this many. So,
secondly, the overwhelming majority of New Testament variances are just minor and insignificant. Right. Most of the variances are spelling errors, nonsense readings that are easy to spot, meaningless word order changes, right, or Greek article changes that make no difference in the English translation.
Right. Again, we're not writing in English, so to say the quick brown fox or the brown fox that is quick, kind of the same, but in Greek it's almost pick your preference, because there are changes that you can make depending on what school of training you went to, or just how you can say it in the same way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Erdman himself at times has to admit that this indeed is the case. For example, he writes, quote, "To be sure, of all the hundreds of thousands of textual changes found among our manuscripts, most of them," he tells us, "are completely insignificant, immaterial, and of no real importance of anything other than showing the scribes could not spell or keep focused any better than the rest of us."
Right.
Quote, right.
So if you're trying to copy Peter and you're a highfalutin Greek scholar who's read and written Greek his entire life, Peter's Greek is terrible, and so you might have a hard time being that terrible as a good Greek. So there are different explanations within this.
So if most of these thousands of variants are insignificant, then why does Erdman keep making statements about the numbers of changes being greater than the number of words in the New Testament, right? It makes for a nice soundbite,
right?
But does little to bring clarity to the discussion.
It would be more beneficial, more beneficial for us, I guess, for him to say, out of the 400 or so textual variants within the scope of the New Testament, 8 of them are downright nefarious to the Christian worldview or doctrinal changes. Okay, well, 8 doesn't sound like that impressive, but we can then focus on the 8. So there you go.